following announcement has been paid for by the new Howl Order.
Whether the team is giving us the highest of highs or the blues, we'll cover it all here on Commanders Nightly News. I, of course, am your host, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Let's get to tonight's lead story. So, yesterday we had a very, I thought, productive conversation about the defense. Somewhat provocative, but overall, a lot of the things we discussed were things that we've been complaining about for the last 3 years under defensive coordinator Jack Del Rio. We need more turnovers. In thinking about that discussion from last night and some of the conversations surrounding what we talked about, one of the things that I brought up was when you play bad teams, you have to put points up. Generally, bad teams in this league don't score a lot of points, hence why they're bad. It's not always the case, but usually bad teams find it hard to score consistently because usually bad teams have bad quarterback play. That said, I wanted to ask you a question. And usually I think about this kind of scenario with teams like Dallas in mind. And I'll explain here in a second. But which is it better to have when playing an inferior team? A dominant defense or a prolific offense? Because I got to thinking about it last night. If I had to choose one of these for us tonight, which would it be? In past years, we couldn't score. So if we wanted to win a game like this against a team that we felt like we should beat, we were leaning heavily on the defense, hoping that they could have one of those performances where they just put the clamps down on a bad team and the offense did just enough to get us by. If the defense provided us with a defensive touchdown, like, say, Houston last year, it always helps the cause and it makes the game a lot easier. But again, those opportunities usually came few and far between for us. You know, we don't have a lot of defensive touchdowns around here. So I thought about it in the context of Dallas, right? They're destroying teams right now. They're doing it on all three phases: special teams, defense, offense. Offense right now, really not that good in the red zone. That's an understatement. They're terrible in the red zone right now. They got one of the worst red zone offenses in football. They're moving the ball consistently. They're just not scoring a bunch of points due to their offense. However, they're making up the difference with defensive scores, special team scores, etc., etc. That's how you get to 40 in week 1. That's how you get to 38 in week 4. The defense chimes in with 2 defensive touchdowns against the Giants in week 1. You got a special teams touchdown. You got a defensive touchdown. You see where I'm going with this. Anyway, Dallas's offense being somewhat challenged in the red zone is what allowed them to lose to Arizona in week number 3. Despite the dominant defense that Dallas has, it wasn't dominant against Arizona. The offense didn't make up the difference. They lost the football game against a team they have no business losing to. When you can score, however, generally speaking, bad teams don't usually keep pace with you. If you have to take it top shelf, if you got to get into a shootout, you got to score 36, you got to score 38, bad teams usually don't go that far. Hey, look. Every dog has its day, and the bad team might have a game where they decide to score 28 points, which is a lot for bad teams who can't score. We know, right? For years, I wouldn't consider us bad, but we were average to slightly below average as a team overall. That's how you end up 7-9, 7-10, 8-7, 8-1, or whatever the hell it is that we like to do around these parts. That's average to slightly below average, right? Bad is when you're the Bears from last year, 3-14. We're never that. But we're average 8-1 to slightly below average. That's what we've been, 7-10 under Ron Rivera, 7-9 the year before that. And generally, you don't go to the 30s. You don't make those trips. You don't have the offense to do so. When it comes to things like this, matters of situations like this, I usually refer to it as P and P. Preference and perspective. Generally, you can ask 10 different people the same question, or you can give them the same scenario, and they can give you 10 different ways to handle it because of preference and perspective. If you're a defensive guy, if you lean heavily on the run game, you're probably going to lean towards give me the dominant defense. I'll shut that team down and we'll score enough points and we'll win. I've always been more of a proponent of when you're playing bad teams, just score points. Bad teams don't score a ton of points. Even when the Bears were at their very best last week, they still only scored 28 points. Justin Fields was magnificent. He threw 4 touchdown passes. Their running back only had like 18 carries, 14 carries, something like that. Khalil Herbert had over 120 yards. Fields had over 330 yards. He threw for over 70% completion percentage. And they still only scored 28 points. So again, and they did that through 3 quarters, essentially 2.5. They at the 9 or 8 minute mark, they had 28 points, and they didn't score another point the rest of the game. So I lean towards just score points, man. Give me the proficient offense against a bad team. You know what would be really nice? Do both. Don't leave it to chance. Do both. What says you? Would you, against a team that's winless like Chicago, would you rather have the dominant defensive performance or a defense that is capable of it? Because you don't know what you're going to get. I.e. Dallas against Arizona. They're dominant. Is Dallas defensively. Didn't show up that day. And because their offense isn't dynamic, and they're struggling in the red zone, they lost that football game. Only scored 16 points. If you've got a prolific offense and you can score, even if you don't have your best performance offensively, you're going to score points if you're a prolific offense. That's what prolific offenses do. They figure it out and they find ways to put points on the scoreboard. I think we need to score. And score a lot tonight, just to ensure that this isn't as close of a game. Don't make it Arizona all over again. Why was that game close? We turned it over, and which we all know, the great equalizer, as I like to call it. But we only scored 20 points. That's how you keep a bad team in the game. Don't score points. Arizona's not a good team, right? We've kind of came to that conclusion. They're fighting. They're scrappy, but they're not good. What did they max out at in week 2 against the Giants? They were up 28-7. 28 points, right? What did they max out against? Dallas played an excellent game. What they max out at? 28 points. You hit 30 against a bad team, generally you're going to win the football game. Generally speaking. I'm not saying. I'm just saying. How many times has Carolina hit 30 this year? I'll wait. Anyway. Let's get to in other news. So, not much here for you. I did find something very eerie, though. And I'm overthinking this. And don't pay me no mind, okay? I'm just thinking out loud. But I said there are a lot of eerie similarities to last year's game in weeks, 6 last year, between these two teams. Now, a lot of those similarities are more skewed towards the Bears side of things, which I'm not happy about, but I don't care about that. So last year, if you recall, Washington was riding a 4-game losing streak coming into the game on Thursday night. The Bears are currently riding a 4-game losing streak coming into this game. Last year, Washington was going on the road on a quick turnaround after a tough, heartbreaking loss. The Bears are going on the road on a quick turnaround after a tough, home, heartbreaking loss, which is what Washington had last year against Tennessee. In that home game last year, Chicago wore their alternate helmets and uniforms. If you remember, they had the orange jerseys on. Tonight, we'll be wearing our alternate uniforms and helmets with a blackout. You see what I'm doing here? You see where I'm going with this? We had dysfunction and chaos swirling around our organization. We talked about this already. The ESPN Seth Wickersham story, Dan Van Natta story came out 3 hours before the game. They've got a whole lot of foolishness going on with their organization. That was the game that helped turn our season around. From utter disaster and despair to, hey, let's go have ourselves a season. Let's not let the Bears exact a measure of revenge and have what happened to us last year happen for them. I'm not saying, I'm just saying. And I don't think they will. I personally, I'm more confident now than I have been in the past. In past years, that kind of information would have made me cringe. Not this year. I'm double salmon with cheese on that. But I thought I'd bring it to your attention anyway. For those of you who are paranoid and do buy into things like that, there you go. You've got another thing to worry about now. Let's move on to the game plan for this game. Thursday Night Football. I want to say something else too. And I meant to mention this yesterday during the live stream. But I'll throw this in other news before we jump into the game plan. I think this is going to be the first of what ultimately becomes 4 primetime games for Washington. Currently, we only have 2. This one and Thanksgiving against Dallas. And technically, Dallas on Thanksgiving isn't, again, technically primetime. Nobody else is playing. That's primetime to me. Primetime is usually the time slot that you're in. I don't care about that. My definition of primetime is, are you the only game on? Are you the only game in town? If you are, then you're primetime. So technically, we have 1 primetime game and then the Thanksgiving game, but that's 2 for me. I think we're going to have 2 additional primetime games before it's all said and done, giving us a total of 4. I think this is the first of 4. Anyway, I digress. Let's get into the game plan. What it's going to take for Washington to be victorious over the Chicago Bears on Thursday Night Football in week number 5. We'll start with the offensive keys to victory. First things first. Start fast. We've been really good on opening possessions. Our first 15 scripted plays have been phenomenal, but we have only yielded 1 touchdown, 1 score in 4 games. And that was last week. I'd like to build upon that, but I'm being greedy. Like, I really want to set the tone in this game for what this is going to be. And the way you do that is you come out guns a-blazing and you score right away and you score often. I want to score on 2 out of our first 3 possessions or 3 out of our first 4 possessions. I'll take 2 out of 3 if it's 2 touchdowns. If it's a touchdown and a field goal initially, then I want 3 out of 4 because I want 17 points. No less than 13, but I want 17 points or more. 14 if it's just 2 out of 3. If it's 3 out of 4, I want at least 17 points. Jump these boys early and make them have to keep pace. And as I've mentioned, usually bad football teams don't keep pace in a high-scoring affair. Start fast. If you want the Bears to hang around, if you want them to think they got a shot, don't score points. It'll be Arizona all over again. Keep it close. And they'll gain confidence and they'll start to believe they can win. And all of a sudden, you got a fight on your hands. You want to avoid that? Jump those boys early. Start fast. Next key to victory offensively. Keep Sam clean. We haven't done that. Haven't even been remotely close to doing that this season. I don't know what the low mark for sacks given up this season for Washington has been. I think it might have been Denver. Obviously, you give up 9 against the Bills, you give up 5 against Philadelphia, and I know he had to be sacked at least 5 or 6 times against Arizona. Either way, the Bears come into this game dead last in the league in sacks with 2 on the season. That's right, 2 sacks for the Chicago Bears. So how about they not get a sack tonight? That'd be nice, right? Let's not let them double their sack total or triple it even in this game. Let's just keep Sam clean. How about we do that? And that responsibility goes on everybody. The running backs, the offensive line, Sam, EB, everybody's involved. Tight ends, everyone's got a part to play. Receivers too. Getting open, running the routes correctly, right depth, proper spacing. Everyone's got a part to play in that. It's not just the O-line. It's not just Sam. It's not just the running backs or the tight ends. It's not just EB. It's the receivers too. Everybody's got a hand in this. Just keep Sam clean tonight. Next offensive key to victory. Don't forget about B-Rob. He's having the best season of his career. It's young. Obviously, it's only his second year in the league, but this is his best stretch of football. He's playing with confidence. The O-line, they're opening up holes in the run game. He's exploiting them. He's running hard. He's making guys miss in space. He's running through arm tackles. Let's take some of that pressure off of Sam. Let's let this offensive line lean on the Bears defense right now that's struggling. I know it's very tempting with their best safety or their most playmaking worthy safety and their best corner out of this game. I know it's tempting to just want to go off on them through the air. Do not forget about Brian Robinson. Last offensive key to victory. Versus the Bears. Play clean ball and be proficient in the red zone. When we've scored 30 plus, we've been really good in the red zone. We were 3 of 3 in the red zone against Denver when we scored 35 points. And we were 4 of 5 against Philadelphia last week when we scored 31 points. I look at this opportunity that's in front of us, and I not only want to keep Sam clean, but I don't want any turnovers tonight. Normally I say, hey, keep the turnovers to a minimum. Last week I think I said 1 or less. I'm not even allowing there to be any room for there to be a turnover. No turnovers. Keep the penalties to a minimum, 4 or less. Don't beat yourself. Play clean ball tonight. Again, make a inferior team have to play a perfect game to even keep pace. Play clean ball, be proficient in the red zone. That's going to create the distance that you're looking for. You kick field goals, and the Bears will hang around. Defensive keys to victory in this game against Chicago. Start fast, set the tempo. You see the theme here, starting fast? I think it's paramount. You want to beat a team like Chicago, who's struggling right now, who hasn't won a game this season. You need to set the tone and let them know, again, tonight's not your night. Maybe next week, not tonight. We didn't do that against Arizona. We have a chance to do that tonight. Last year, the Bears went right down the field on us on the first 2 possessions of the game. Luckily enough for us, they came away with 0 points. If you recall, first possession of the game, they moved it right down the field. They went for it on 4th down. They did not get it. Stopped them at the 2-yard line. Second possession of the game, moved it right down into the red zone, inside the 10-yard line. Justin Fields throws the ball off the helmet of his offensive lineman, and Jonathan Allen picks it off. But those 2 possessions told them, hey, we can move the ball on these clowns. We can beat them. Let's not allow them to feel confident like they did last year with early possessions that allow them to move the football down the field. Start fast and set the tempo defensively. Second defensive key in this game. Control fields and the line of scrimmage. There won't be many quarterbacks that we play this year that we can control. We play a lot of good quarterbacks. Justin Fields isn't one of them. And I don't feel bad saying that. He had a really good game last week. But he's got a long way to go in his development if he's to be a starting quarterback in this league. They still don't know if they've got their franchise quarterback or not. They're still trying to make that determination. Last week was a big step in the right direction. Let's have him relapse. Take a couple steps backwards this week. One of the best ways to do that is to control the line of scrimmage. Get after him, make him uncomfortable. He'll hold on to the ball. If the secondary does their job, he will hold on to the ball. That's one of his issues, and we've seen that with Sam. Young quarterbacks, when they don't like what they see, if they don't want to throw a pick, they'll hold on to the ball. You can get to Justin Fields. He did that same thing last year. That's why we sacked him like 6 times last year. He held on to the ball way too long. He's still doing that. But more importantly, don't let the run game be a crutch for him. Last year, we gave up a huge run to Khalil Herbert. Fields was running all over the place. Make him beat us with his arm. Because I don't think he's capable. Next defensive key, tackle and no explosives. The Bears throw a bevy of short passes. Get the ball into the playmaker's hands. We know DJ Moore is one of the more dynamic, explosive receivers in the NFL with the ball in his hand. We're not having that shit. Tackle. Don't miss tackles. Don't let a 2-yard gain turn into a 22-yard gain because you missed a tackle. Guys out in space, push them out of bounds or get them on the ground. And then in past weeks, I've said limit the explosives, which that leaves a little bit of space, an opportunity for 2 or 3 explosive plays. I'm not leaving that room today. No explosives. Turnovers and big plays are 2 ways that the Bears can stay in this game. Last year, their one touchdown that they scored, the only touchdown that they scored, came on a deep ball. Caught us trying to substitute, get guys off the field. Justin Fields took a shot and hit his receiver for a touchdown. Eliminate big plays. Make them earn everything that they get. Because bad teams generally self-destruct at some point during a drive. Make them go 12, 13 plays without making a mistake. Then lastly, defensively, make someone other than DJ Moore and Cole Kmet beat us. So far in this young season, Justin Fields has shown a propensity to get the football to those two guys in particular. I don't blame him. They're both very good. Young quarterbacks generally like to stick with guys that they trust. Right now, Justin Fields trusts DJ Moore and Cole Kmet. These are guys that he's comfortable with, and at the first sight of trouble, these are the guys he's going to be looking for. He's going to try to get the ball to them early and often, and we have to do a good job of minimizing the impact that those two in particular have on this game. He had 4 touchdown passes last week. 3 of them went to the combination of Cole Kmet and DJ Moore. So we know what we have to do. Now it's about going out and executing. And as I mentioned yesterday on the show, don't think that they didn't watch film. Don't think that they're not going to try to target Emmanuel Forbes. We have to be ready. So those are your keys to victory for Washington. Now let's get to our final outcome. So in past years, games like this used to make me nervous. Any primetime game for that matter used to make me nervous. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that once we get to 8:15 tonight and I sit in front of my television talking to the MOBB that I'm not going to have butterflies in my stomach. I'd be lying to you. But as far as the anxiousness that comes with these games, just like last week, I was very comfortable telling you guys, I expect to win. I'm not hoping to be competitive. I expect to beat Philadelphia. Now, we fell short, but it wasn't because of a lack of effort or this team wasn't up to the challenge. I expect us to win this game. I expect us to do the things that we need to do to come out victorious. Is it always going to look pretty? Is it always going to be clean like I want it to be? Probably not. That's my guess. I hope I'm wrong, and I hope we go out and we just devour these boys. But do I think we're going to do enough to win and win comfortably? Will I be sweating in the fourth quarter? I don't think I'll be sweating tonight in the fourth quarter. 30-17. I really think we can score 37. I really do. I wanted to make it 37-17, but that would require help from the defense and or special teams. And right now, my confidence level in either one of those units, doing something above the norm, the standard that is required of them, is low right now. Hence, 30-17 is the final score for me. What says you? Leave it down in the comment section of this video. Score and more. What do you see happening in this contest? Thursday Night Football, Commanders in all black. Whose funeral is it going to be? We're dressed in all black like the Omen. Bears or Commanders? Let's make sure it's not ours. You know what it is. It's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on Commanders Nightly News. I look forward to chopping it up with you guys at the conclusion of Commanders Bears tonight. I will be live for Thursday Night Football overtime. We'll chop it up, talk about how the outcome came to be. And hopefully we'll be talking about a 3-2 Commanders team feeling really good, coming out of this game unscathed from an injury standpoint. They played well. They showed what they're fully capable of. And it's on to Atlanta. That's hopefully the conversation we'll be having tonight. But, expect the unexpected with this team sometimes. I think we're moving in a different direction. But this is a test. This is a test to find out, have we grown since week 1? Week 1, we had this same opportunity presented to us, and we failed that test. Now, we won the game. That's the most important part. But we didn't win in decisive fashion. It wasn't a clean game, and we made it a lot harder on ourselves than we needed to. Can we avoid those pitfalls and take care of business against a winless team and keep them winless after tonight's ball game? We'll see. I think the answer is yes. But you know what it is. I'm your man Louie T signing off. Post up. Take command. Let's roll these boys, man.
Here comes the diesel. Here comes the diesel. There's the snap, hand to Riggins. Good hold. He's got the first down to the 40. He's gone. The 35, the 30.